This is Bergstrom State Line Quiz Bowl. Now from the Collins Aerospace Studio at the Nordloff Center in downtown Rockford, here's your host, Eric Wilson.
Thanks for joining us for another exciting matchup of Bergstrom State Line Quiz Bowl. Hope your weekend is going well. It's our final game of round two. That means there's only one seat left in our Elite Eight, and one of our two teams here is going to earn that spot. There are a lot of familiar faces up here on stage. Let's meet some of them and refresh our memories, shall we? First, it's the Morrison Mustangs. Last year's consolation champs got past Guilford. They made it to the second round for the fourth time in 5 years. Did you know that stat, Nara?
I didn't.
That's pretty impressive. Those are impressive statistics, and maybe you'll improve on that today. Who knows? Introduce us to your starting lineup.
Okay. To my near left is Blaine, to my near right is Violet, and to my far right is Quinn.
Welcome, Morrison Mustangs. Thanks for being here. And speaking of impressive stacks, the Belvidere Bucks join us as well. Belvidere has been one of the highest scoring teams throughout all of Quiz Bowl. Round one was no exception. David has so far this tournament, high 17 correct buzz-in questions. That was just in one game. And that helped the Bucks cruise to a school record, and so far in the tournament, highest score of 470 points. That's impressive as well. Two equally impressive teams face off today. Only one will move on to the Elite Eight. Dun, dun, dun. We need one of those sound effects. So our Rockford University buzz-in round, you've played the game before. You know how it goes. Just remember those two most important rules. Wait for me to call your name before you answer, and then say that answer loudly and clearly. Hands on your buzzers, and let's get started. Good luck, contestants. What mammal with species name Anatinus, whose males can release venom from spurs, Donovan?
Platypus.
That's right. It's a monotreme with a duck-billed face. Belvedere strikes first. What foodstuff, the main ingredient in Mexican elote, can be dried and, Lindsay?
Corn.
That's right. Dried and ground to make hominy, typically has husks surrounding its ears. A series of children's books by Astrid Lindgren centers on what red-haired girl who lives in Nara?
Pippi Longstockings?
That's right, and possesses superhuman strength. Morrison's first point of the game. What game, which titles a 2023 film starring Taron Egerton, was created by programmer Alexei Pajotnov and involves Blaine?
Tetris.
That's right. Moving and rotating blocks back in January in Oklahoma, 13-year-old became the first person to beat that game. Tied up right now. What 12-letter word refers to the practice of compiling dictionaries, which may include work on etymologies and definitions? David?
Bibliography.
Incorrect. Morrison, these points could put you in the lead. Nara?
Abridging?
Incorrect. Lexicography. Kind of a complex one there. What U.S.-born artist painted children lighting lanterns in Carnation Lily Lily Rose after depicting Virginie Gunotreau in Portrait of Madame X? David?
Sargent.
That is right. Back in the lead. Which country has been led by Rama X of the Chakri? David?
Thailand.
Yes, of the Chakri dynasty since the 2016 death of the longtime king. What author of The Witches of Eastwick wrote about a high school basketball star from Pennsylvania? David?
Updike.
That is correct. John Updike in his group of 4 novels about Rabbit Angstrom. What show which depicted the Feast of the Seven Fishes in a 2023 episode? Johanna?
The Bear.
Johanna?
The Bear.
That is correct. Hulu series set in Chicago starring Jeremy Allen White. Just won a bunch of Emmys. He did too. He won one. In August 2023, voters in what state rejected a constitutional amendment that would have required future amendments to win 60% support to pass? David?
California.
Incorrect. Morrison, you want to take a stab at it? Go ahead, Blaine.
Ohio.
You got it. Ohio is right. A man rescues a girl from a locked safe. In what story by O. Henry about former criminal Jimmy Valentine? David?
Ransom of Red Chief.
Incorrect. Morrison? Jimmy actually blows his cover to save this girl. A Retrieved Reformation is that short story. What substance, most of which was destroyed in baryogenesis, can undergo annihilation with its opposite charge counterpart, namely normal matter? David?
Dark matter.
Incorrect. Morrison. Nara.
Antimatter.
Antimatter is the answer we needed there. Edwin Howard Armstrong pioneered what medium for which the term broadcasting was invented that sparked an era of mass communication in the 1920s? Nara.
Radio.
Radio is right. His big breakthrough was in FM, but radio is correct. Another one for Morrison. What city's concert venues include Schoenberg Hall at a namesake branch of the University of California and Frank Gehry's Walt Disney Concert Hall? David.
Los Angeles.
Los Angeles is correct. The Biot-Savart law describes how a current generates what kind of vector field measured in Teslas? David.
Magnetic field.
Magnetic field is correct, and that is how we end the round with that correct answer from Belvidere. Super tight game. We would expect nothing less between these two powerhouse teams. Belvidere has 80 right now, and Morrison has 50. We're going to take a break, catch our breath, and come back with our volleyball round. Stay with us. One round into our final game of our second round, so we're ending up the Sweet 16, putting one more team into our Elite 8. We'll see who it'll be. Right now it's really tight. Belvidere's got 80. They're on top, but not by much. Morrison has 50. Before we get into our volleyball questions, a very special thank you to our judge today. We mentioned something earlier about familiar faces up here. Speaking of familiar faces, Einar Forsman is the former CEO of the Greater Rockford Area Growth Partnership, but he's also a longtime community support, not just of our show, but of the community in general. So Einar, thanks for being here with us today, but also for helping make our community a better place. All right, volleyball round is a conferring round. Work as a team. Contestants' answers need to come from captains Nara and David. Speaking of David, you get the first question this week in volleyball. Are you ready? Here we go. What poem, which describes things that are said to intimately live with rain, claims that only God can make the tidal plants and is by Joyce Kilmer?
Oh, what is that called? Joyce Kilmer. Do we know elegies?
I think that I shall never see a poem lovely as a tree. Tree is the name of the poem as well. Over to Morrison. The author Saki took his pen name from what collection, which consists of Edward Fitzgerald's translations of quatrains by Omar Khayyam? Saki is the wine pourer in the Rubaiyat by Omar Khayyam. Back over to Belvidere. What man argued property rights arise from laboring on the land in his two treatises of government, a text that influenced the founding fathers?
Is it Locke? Sure. Locke.
You went with your gut, and that's right. You got it. John Locke influenced the late 17th and early 18th century there. Belvidere's first points of the round. Back over to Morrison. What black female activist and co-founder of the NAACP exposed incidents of lynching in the late 1800s in works like Southern Horrors? That was Ida B. Wells. Back to Belvidere. What activity was restricted by the 8-box law, the grandfather clause, literacy tests, and other racist policies in the Jim Crow South?
Voting.
Yes, you only needed a couple of those clues, but I got them all in for you. You're in triple digits now, Belvidere. Back to Morrison. The Chandrasekhar limit is an upper bound on what quantity for a white dwarf beyond which the dwarf will collapse?
Stability.
Incorrect. Mass. We're talking astronomy there, specifically stars, but it was the mass was the quantity that we needed. Back to Belvidere. What country which won the basketball silver medal at the 2020 Olympics is the home country of the top pick in the 2023 draft, Victor Wembanyama?
Oh. I don't know. France. France.
You got it right at the buzzer. France. Nice work. Country just happens to be this summer's Olympics host. Back over to Morrison. What Englishwoman who wrote under a male pseudonym depicted conflicts between siblings Tom and Maggie Tulliver in her novel, The Mill on the Floss?
J.K. Rowling.
Incorrect. Mary Ann Evans, who was better known as George Eliot. That was the male pseudonym she used. Back to Belvidere. What theological dialogue, whose second chapter explains the Atman or eternal soul, is a conversation between Arjuna and Krishna in the Mahabharata?
Yeah. Bhagavad Gita.
Bhagavad Gita is right. It's part of the Mahabharata, and that's the end of the round. Belvidere ends it with that correct answer and is now up to 120 points. Morrison, again, not too far behind and not too shabby of a round. You're up at 50. We got a lot of points on the line in our next round. It's the lightning round, but first you get to play at home with the Bergstrom bonus question. If you stick around for a couple of minutes, we'll have the answer for you.
Originally referred to as Onion Head, what is the mean green hot dog eating ghost from the Ghostbusters franchise?
If you're watching at home, have you spent the last 2 minutes just dying to know the answer to our Bergstrom bonus question? Have no fear, the answer is here. Our contestants, though, haven't even seen the question yet. This is the question where there's pizza on the line. Pizza and pasta, if you want, from Lino's. Hands on your buzzers and let me know if you know the answer to this question, contestants. Originally referred to as Onion Head, what is the mean green hot dog eating ghost from the Ghostbusters franchise? Violet.
Slimer.
Slimer is correct. Nice work. That is certainly worth a high five. Very good. Ghostbusters are back, by the way. Ghostbusters Frozen Empire hits theaters next weekend. All right, let's be honest. Raise your hands. Who cried at Ghostbusters Afterlife? Maybe a little bit at the end. Come on, I'm not the only one. All right, fine. Take me to break. I'm going to sulk. We'll get in the lightning round after this. I already spent the last break talking about Ghostbusters. In my defense, only one of the contestants up here has seen Ghostbusters Afterlife, so I stand by my reaction to the end of that movie. Let's get on with some gameplay, shall we? The NECA IBEW Lightning Round has a lot of points available. You know, if you watched the game or played the game, if you run a category, 100 points will be added to your score if you get through it in time and get all the correct answers. Because of the coin flip, Morrison gets first pick. So, Nara, your choices this week are Vice Presidents, Fast and Furious cast, or 14.
Vice Presidents.
All right. Given a president, name his vice president. Simple explanation, 60 seconds on the clock. Remember to pass if you think you're spending too much time on one question, and then, David, you and the team will have 30 seconds to go back to what they don't get. Nara, are you ready for your first one?
Yes.
Here it comes. Given a president, name his vice president. Joe Biden.
Kamala Harris.
Correct. Bill Clinton.
Al Gore.
Correct. Donald Trump.
Pence.
Correct. George Washington.
Adams.
Can you be more specific?
John Adams.
Correct. Abraham Lincoln's second VP who succeeded Lincoln as president.
Andrew Johnson.
Correct. George W. Bush.
Cheney.
Correct. Richard Nixon's second VP who succeeded Nixon as president.
Ford.
Correct. George H.W. Bush.
Quayle.
Correct. Theodore Roosevelt's VP who names a city in Alaska.
Taft.
Incorrect. James Polk's VP who names a city in Texas.
Pass.
That's all you have left. And there's the buzzer. That's a pretty solid lightning round. Yes, nice round of applause. You're now in the lead. 8 of them correct. 2 left on the board for you, David, and the team. Only 30 seconds to get through them. Could be fast if you've been paying attention and if you know your vice presidents. Are you ready? Here's the first one. Given a president, name his vice president. Theodore Roosevelt's VP who names a city in Alaska.
Fairbanks.
That's correct. James Polk's VP who names a city in Texas.
Galveston? Which one? Houston. No, Houston's from, I don't know. Houston.
Incorrect. And I kind of could tell the deliberation there. You were really close. It was Dallas. George Mifflin Dallas, or George M. Dallas. That's a pretty solid lightning round. And on top of that, it ties us up. We're at 130 apiece. And now Belvidere has the choice from what's left. Fast and Furious cast, David, or 14?
14.
Okay. No Fast and Furious movie fans in this group? I guess I shouldn't be surprised. Nobody saw Ghostbusters, so okay. Answer the following about the number 14. That is this category. 60 seconds on the clock. David, are you ready for the first one?
Yes.
Again, advice to both teams. Remember that pass option. You used it pretty well in that last round. Here we go. Answer the following about the number 14. It's 2 prime factors.
7 and 2. 7 and 2.
Correct. Element with atomic number 14 and atomic symbol SI.
Silicon.
Correct. President who created the 14 points.
Wilson.
Correct. Composer whose 14th piano sonata is the Moonlight Sonata.
Beethoven.
Correct. Poems like those by Petrarch consisting of 14
Sonnet.
lines. Correct. Word for a period of 14 days.
Yeah, fortnight.
Correct. Avatar of Vishnu who spent 14 years in exile with his wife Sita.
Krishna.
Incorrect. Roman emperor succeeded by Tiberius after his death in AD 14.
Augustus, right? Augustus.
Correct. Spiritual title whose 14th and current holder lives in exile in Dharamshala.
Dalai Lama.
Correct. Burlington is in this 14th state admitted to the Union.
Vermont.
Correct. Nothing to go back to. We still got a little bit of time on the clock. Yes, good round of applause for them as well. 9 right, 1 left for you, Nara. 30 seconds. You can take it all, or you can answer if you want, or you can just say no answer and we'll move on. It's all up to you, but take all 30 if you need it. Okay. It's on the clock. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Here is your one and only question. Answer the following about the number 14. Avatar of Vishnu who spent 14 years in exile with his wife Sita.
Brahma?
Incorrect, but that was a good guess. Solid. It was clearly the hardest one of the 10. It's Ram or Ramachandra. And that's the end of our lightning round. And look at our scores now. Belvidere is 220, just over the 200 mark, 90 points ahead of Morrison at 130. But in our next round, each question's worth 20 points. If you've played this game long enough, you know how quickly scores can change in that next round. And we'll have it for you right after this. In just a few minutes, we will know who earns that final seat in our Elite Eight in this season's tournament. Belvidere has a pretty strong lead as we head into the Mercy Health Final Challenge. The Bucks have 220. Morrison has 130. It's a buzz-in round, contestants. Now the points, though, are 20 per question. And then remember those two most important rules are wait for me to call your name, say the answer loudly and clearly. Good luck to both of our teams. Hands on your buzzers. Here is the first question in the Mercy Health Final Challenge. Surgeon Norman Barrett is the namesake of a metaplastic disease affecting what roughly 10-inch long organ that receives food from, David?
Esophagus.
That's right, food from the pharynx. It's actually called Barnett's esophagus. What Asian country where the New People's Army insurgency and Moro conflict have recently taken place has been the site of protests in Manila? David?
Philippines.
Yes, the capital of the Philippines. In May 2023, which performer announced plans to retire his current stage name and, Lindsay?
The Weeknd.
Yes, possibly begin performing under his real name, Abel Tesfaye. 3 in a row for Belvedere. What European language was used to write the novels Buddenbrooks, The Magic Mountain? David?
German.
Yes, and Der Untertan by the brothers Heinrich and Thomas Mann. In 2023, Fernando Villavicencio was assassinated in what South American country where he was a candidate running to succeed President Guillermo Lasso? David?
Bolivia.
Incorrect. Morrison, you could take these points, close the gap a bit. Blaine?
Paraguay.
Incorrect. That all went down in Ecuador. What class of rocks, which may be extrusive like basalt or Donovan?
Igneous.
That's right, or intrusive like granite. Which English king who was married to Catherine Berganza was king during the Great Fire of London and came to power after the Stuart Restoration? David?
James I.
Incorrect. Morrison, you can take a shot at this. Go ahead, Violet.
Charles VII.
Close. Charles II. You got the Charles part, right? It was a great shot. What noble gas is used in photography because it can produce intense bursts of white light like xenon, which lies below it on, David?
Argon.
Incorrect. I will finish for Morrison. Below it on the periodic table. Nara?
Neon?
Incorrect. Also the name of Superman's home planet, Krypton. What kind of objects have modes or industries such as the Mousterian, were often made of flint and once were used to define unique human behavior? Donovan.
Arrowheads.
Incorrect. Morrison.
Trailblazer.
Incorrect. Tools. More specifically, stone tools. What Japanese martial art, whose name partly means yielding, focuses on turning an opponent's force against themselves and also has a Brazilian form? Lindsay.
Jiu-jitsu.
Jiu-jitsu is right, also known as the gentle art, and that long buzzer means the game's over. Belvidere, congratulations, another high score, 340 points. You are moving on to the next round. Nice work. You will actually face Auburn in our next round. And Morrison, great game. It's always a pleasure to have you. You're always smiling faces, having fun. Clearly, Nara, you have probably more fun than many people who play this game. We're glad you're here. How many of you are seniors? Just you. Well, you need to spread that enthusiasm to the rest of the team and have them bring it next year when you come back and play in our tournament. Is that a deal?
Yes.
Okay. And you come back and visit us anytime. Next week, we kick off our Elite 8 round with Pecatonica battling Byron. Hope to see you then.